My name is Mark Spencer and I'm a curator of flowering plants at the Natural History Museum in London, which means I actually look after some of the museum's collections of British flowering plants, about 1 million of them in total. An invasive species is a plant or an animal which has actually been introduced into a new environment by man. It's not got there on its own. These species, once in this new habitat, can sometimes cause serious damage. Not all introduced plants and animals cause invasion. Sometimes they'll just live in a new ecosystem without causing damage. But biological invasions can be very serious. So, for example, in Tahiti, there's a plant called velvet leaf, which was introduced in 1937 and now covers up to 60% of Tahiti. It's causing an absolute ecological disaster. Islands are particularly vulnerable to invasive species and climate change for a wide range of reasons, but they come down to some fairly fundamental things. Often island systems have fewer species on them in the first place compared to the mainland, so it means there's less sort of genetic diversity to combat invasion. It means that the habitat is much easier to pull apart because it's in some ways less complex. Also, the species that live on the island, both plant and animal, are not adapted. They don't really know how to confront the new invader. They may not have the right method for eating it, they might not have the right chemicals for killing it, so they've got no way of dealing with these organisms. So islands are very, very vulnerable to this kind of thing. On top of that, obviously, islands are usually small land masses. So if you get a biological invasion, the animals and plants there don't have many places to hide. People often ask, is there a link between climate change and invasive species? And the answer is yes. Climate change creates gaps in the habitat. Plants and animals, when they're stressed, they become less fit. If there's too much rain, too little rain, or it's too hot, the environment becomes broken up almost. The plants can't fill those gaps physically and ecologically. In those conditions, an invasive species can push their way into the environment and actually start to oust the native plants and animals, creating a real hell's brew for that environment. The Copenhagen summit is a really important piece of human history, and like every other person on the planet, I'm very, very worried. We have got to start making decisions. My personal hope is that we take a step beyond the narrow, politically driven goals that are currently being set and look at the scientific evidence, because we've got a long way to go from our current political goals to what most of the scientists say is actually needed to put us in a stabilised world.